Good morning, and welcome to Redeemer Lutheran Church in Columbia, South Carolina, where we're part of the ELCA. I'm Pastor Gary Lodeholt. It happens rather often. I'll be teaching a Bible study class, and we'll come up with some conundrum, something we don't understand, and someone will say, "That's going to be one of the questions I'm going to ask when I get to heaven." Everybody typically chuckles at that. We've probably all had times in our lives when we don't understand, times when things happen and we don't grasp why, things we don't see the purpose of. And so we say to ourselves that we'll ask about that whenever we get to heaven. I'm reminded of the story of the Sunday school teacher who was holding a class for children on how God has a purpose for everything. They went around naming different things and talking about the purpose that played in life, until one student asked about poison ivy. Try as she might, the teacher couldn't come up with the purpose of poison ivy. Finally, one little boy said, "I know. God gave us poison ivy to teach us that there are some things we should keep our cotton picking hands off of." Pretty insightful. Still, we all have questions we want the answers to, but whenever that comes up, I tend to respond that I think when we get to heaven, we will be so filled with God that our questions will no longer be important. We will see the rightness of God in all things and be filled with praise, and that's all we will want to do. This week we are looking at some of the questions that Jesus asked people, and his questions are often deeper and more profound the longer we consider them. Today we want to talk about the first question Jesus asks in the Gospel of John. Jesus asks Andrew and one other, "What are you looking for?" In this part of the gospel, Jesus has come to the Jordan River to be baptized by John the Baptist. And then as he passes by the next day, well, this is how the gospel writer tells it. The next day, John again was standing with two of his disciples. And as he watched Jesus walk by, he exclaimed, "Look, here is the Lamb of God." The two disciples heard him say this, and they followed Jesus. When Jesus turned and saw them following, he said to them, "What are you looking for?" Now, you might never have thought about John the Baptist having disciples, but he did. A few verses later, one of these two following Jesus turns out to be Andrew. And at the end of the day, Andrew found his brother Peter and said, "We have found the Messiah." Andrew is often considered the first disciple for this. And maybe we should note that the first thing he did was to evangelize. He told his brother the good news. Still, let's consider Jesus' question anew. What are you looking for? Maybe we should ask it of ourselves. What are you looking for in life? Are you seeking security or wealth or comfortableness or rest or hope in the face of disappointment or freshness and life in a world that seems so dead end? Are we looking for something spectacular, something that entertains, something that is out of the ordinary, something to give your life meaning, something to give life direction? We look for lots of different things, bouncing from one thing to another, as if drawn by a pretty flower, only to see it wilt. We want something lasting and real and true. What are you looking for? It's a powerful and profound question. Andrew and the other unnamed person are taking the first tentative steps on the journey of faith, and Jesus asks them to consider what they are looking for. I'm sure they weren't looking for the way to lead them to the cross. When Jesus asks what they are looking for, they then asked him where he is staying. Jesus replied, "Come and see." The searching leads to invitation. Jesus doesn't fill them with theology. He invites them to simply see what God is doing. Come and see what God is doing. It's the invitation that still calls us today. In our searching, in our hunger for what we don't even know, Jesus invites us simply to come and see God at work in him. We are invited to see God's love, God's grace, and feel God's arms enfolding us. It's what we really seek. May God guide our seeking, and may our hearts be anchored in him. Thanks for sharing these moments with me, and remember to let this day belong to God.